but you can also look at other ways to look back on the success factors of a project, like how well was your hours that you budgeted for that project.
Correct. Yeah.
Hey everybody, welcome to the ProfitDig live show. I'm here with Jeff Spencer.
But Jeff, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well.
Chris Mark.
What's going on, fellas?
I'm Jeff Gibbons.
Good.
And behind the camera, as always, we have Jerry Work.
What's up, Jerry?
It's a good last name, Work.
It's not bad.
You don't like that last name? Is it set too high expectations?
I don't think so, but I don't think no, that does that. But you get the joke every time you meet someone new. You know, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, you must work all the time. I'm like, yeah, I have a house and kids and family, so I bet you do too. You know, if you're eating. So it's like,
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Well, man, guys, we were just talking off screen about, when you complete a project, it could be beneficial for you, maybe not every single project, but to look back on those projects. If you're tracking the costs in a software, that's one easy way to do it, but you can also look at other ways to look back on the success factors of a project, like how well was your hours that you budgeted for that project.
Correct. Yeah. And that's one thing, that really determines how much, a backlog that we take on a project is not necessarily based on the money, but to me, to help me as a project manager and as an estimator to hone my skills is the hours I projected, for this particular project. Mm-hmm. If we come in under budget on our hours for our equipment and our men, generally, we don't look at it too hard, unless the profit's just upside down or something. We got to figure, what went wrong, where did we mess up? Mm-hmm. Or where did I mess up?
Yeah, what's interesting is in the ProfitDig application, you can track.
I know where you're going with this, Jeff.
Yeah, well,
Run, boy, run.
You can track not only the type of those costs, whether it's like an employee cost or an equipment cost. Mm-hmm. Maybe you had some contingency fund set aside that,
right.
Or maybe even the subcontractors that you used, did it end up costing you more than what you projected in the first place due to change orders or whatever it might have been. With ProfitDig, you can break that down by type.
Even down to bid item, per bid item.
You can look at it at the header level, the bid item level, or even the whole bid level.
Right.
Yep.
Right. So having a tool like that, which, we make ProfitDig, so we're proud of it. You
Check it out, ProfitDig.
check it out.
Yeah.
That's one of the key features of the tool.
Yes.
Yeah.
And whether you're using ProfitDig or not, that's something to consider.
Well, and it makes your budget, about as transparent as you could possibly make it.
Yeah.
As far as seeing all aspects, where you, really profited at, where you really made money at. A lot of times, you may lose money on several different items on a project, bid items, but then you've got several bid items that may have done exceptionally well that give it a good balance.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
It's still important to know.
It's important to know because you don't want to pretend, you don't want to put your faith in those other bid items that's going to do well every time.
Every time.
You want to be able to bring those up that done so badly, and make sure that they do better in the future.
Yeah. Or why did they?
What did they take?
Was it because of your labor estimates?
Could be.
Did you not get an accurate material price for it? Maybe you had to issue change orders because you didn't qualify the work right.
And as I hate to say it, sometimes it comes down to a typo.
I was going to say, it could have something you could have entered the wrong.
Yeah. I've had that happen more than once.
Yeah.
When you're down to the crunch, the deadline on a job, and you're really crunching for time, you get in a hurry. You make mistakes. We're human. We're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I've put in the wrong amount before for material prices, and I put in the wrong amount, not monetary amount, but quantity amount
Yeah.
for materials.
Yeah.
And it cost me money.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of things, but you can, with an application like ProfitDig, you can look back and see those.
Yeah.
It can be if you don't have an application, then it can be a lengthy process, trying to actually narrow it down.
But you need to be doing something.
Yeah, you need to be doing something to figure out how it went.
Yeah.
Even while you're working on this project, it may take you a few months, but don't give up on it. You need to find out where your money went, how come you lost money on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Which pretty handy how you can crank out that. I like to refer to it as the scorecard. We've actually done videos on this before,
Yeah.
but it's like my favorite feature of ProfitDig is that I'm like a couple clicks away to see exactly where I'm making or potentially losing money.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you're losing on your silt fence midline every single job you've got,
Yeah.
maybe you need to reconsider how you're later.
Look at that. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, so this we've sort of already touched on. One of the topics that I was going to raise is that, just some tools and applications to use. So you need a tool or an application or some sort of process.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, at this point, if it's pencil and paper,
Something. Yeah.
Yeah.
just have some sort of reference when you go back and see. Yeah.
Don't
it may
make-
take you a little longer to perform the calculation, but at least you have the data.
Right.
Anything's better
Hey,
than
don't-
nothing at this
you know,
point. So,
Don't make it harder on yourself than it has to be.
right.
Use
Yeah.
something like ProfitDig. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Save you a lot of time.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and even going back, like you're talking about, like doing like this moral review, and I think that's important. And to Jeff's point, he's like, well, but if things were great, we already got the next job going, but maybe it's still a good time in the slower season during the winter time or whatever your industry or location. That's going to vary, obviously. If you have a block of time out of the year where you're not as busy, go back and review those projects. Probably more, whatever.
It doesn't even have to be every one.
Well, and
yeah.
It's like, with like ProfitDig, you've got graphs and charts, that you can look at, in a quick and easy manner.
Sure.
And those are the kinds of things I would look at on those projects that are real profitable. I'd go back and I'd look at my equipment, budget for equipment, see where I'm at, my labor budget, my material budget, and look at my profit and my overhead. Kind of align those things and see where they are in a quick overview. You can tell pretty quick, hey, I made money on this job, but I didn't do as good on my labor times as I hoped I would, or I really overshot my materials this time. That may be why we made the extra money we made, because I had too many materials budgeted in this. There's things you can see at a quick glance. A good job's a good job, and I agree with you. It needs to go back and be looked at, but I don't believe it needs to be looked at in depth. But like a quick overview, just to kind of get you a rough idea, of get a pattern. It's
Absolutely right.
Well, and there could be some trigger that you have, that if you see a certain condition like doesn't pass the sniff test, right? If you give it a quick glance and you think like, no, that looks pretty in order, like, okay, consume your time how you'd like, right? Prioritize it, what works best for you. But if you look at it and you think, man, something's really off about this,
Yeah.
maybe take the time.
It could be the crew. It could be as simple as the crew not gelling.
Yeah.
You may be like, all right, you're going to go with this group. You're going to come over to this group, because for whatever reason, production
guys up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not trying to teach us or treat us all like school children here, but that's just reality.
Well, and one thing, and I'm a stickler about this myself. Whenever, which it's not up to me. I have superintendents that work under me, and I let them kind of oversee. They do oversee the crews. So they are the ones that are choosing which crew goes to which project.
Right.
Now it's like whenever they want to get a crew started, and then they want to hey, I want to take this crew and move him over here and move somebody else over here. If they're not performing or not doing good, then yes, let's look at that and see about it. But if you put a crew on that job, you're never going to know what your crews can do until you put them on a job and leave them.
Yeah.
Now, it may be better to start a new crew or somebody you're not familiar with, start them off on a smaller project.
Sure.
But you've
And
got
that wasn't implying that you would want to jerk them off the job.
no, but I'm just saying, I'm just making a point. People are bad about doing that.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like,
I got you.
they get up on a job for a week or two. It's like, hey, this crew would be better fit for this other project. Don't pull them off in the middle of a project, and put somebody else in there, because you're not going to get true data of what that crew can actually do.
Yeah. Can mess up your analytic capabilities.
Yes, stick with them.
Well, too, just from an efficiency perspective, when you're multitasking, you're nowhere near as efficient if you're solely focused, right?
Right.
So if you're constantly dragging your crews around,
Yeah.
like watch out for those kind of habits, right?
Yeah, and then, well, you're gonna lose a few days with each crew, because this crew already learned this project.
Right.
And then you take them off, they've got to learn another project you move them to, then the crew you move in there, they got to relearn this project.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're losing some hours right there off the bat.
Sure. And just data. You need that crew to complete multiple jobs. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 Yeah, that's why it's good, to have crews in I call them, filler crews is what we call them. It's good to have a 2 or 3 man crew that can go in, like fill in here, fill in there, to where you ain't got to move a bigger crew off a project to go do a punch list on a project they just left. Have that filler crew to go in there and take up the slack while they're focused on this new project you're on.
That's interesting. I don't know if we've ever really touched on that topic, but are you considering this filler crew when you're estimating a project and working on a project?
No, it's like, straight through.
This is okay.
You got
This is like, okay, things aren't progressing at the rate we need, so I'm going to bring in this other crews.
No, it's not necessarily that. I mean, it's like, they have pretty much completed this project.
Okay.
So we've moved them to another project, but there's still some punch list items.
Okay. I can Gotcha.
There's some valve boxes need adjusting. There's some manhole covers need adjusting. There's
The work's already done.
The work's done, yeah. And they're on the clock anyway.
Right.
So as long as everybody's in production.
Right, and you've got them on a project they're going to be more profitable at or more productive at. You got a 5-man crew working on this project here that, they're balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Why pull them off where you got 2 or 3 guys standing around doing punch list stuff while the others are working?
Right.
When you got a smaller crew that, you may have them scheduled to do a smaller job, but it doesn't cost or hurt as bad to pull them away and let them go do his punch list as it does to take a lot bigger crew.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, damn. Good stuff, fellas.
Yeah.
I don't know. If we weren't making content right now, I'd run back there and bid on a construction job.
Heck yeah.
I'm fired up.
You feel it?
Probably a subscription.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, too.
I hear I have unlimited. So yeah.
Nice.
I'll go log into one of them and crank a job out.
Hey, you guys can have one too.
You sure can. Yeah. I did.
Check us out, ProfitDig.com.
Check us out at ProfitDig.com. It's only $99 a month.
Yeah.
It's a really great tool. It's extremely affordable. Unlimited projects.
Yeah, we probably don't talk enough about the app on here.
Yeah, well, this is an educational channel, but sometimes
true.
it's just like the content so aligns with,
Yeah.
What they do.
the
Yeah.
and just the goal and idea behind the product. You can't help but talk about it.
Right.
So it's, yeah. But look, if you're struggling with, tracking your costs, budgeting properly, I'd love to see you. Check us out, ProfitDig.com. While you're here, subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave us a comment. If you have a question, let us know. We have a construction expert right here on staff, so he'd love to help you out.
Where's he?
It's this guy. All right, we'll see y'all soon.
See you
Later.
guys.